My immediate right is the President and Commander-in-Chief of the EFF, President Julius Malema. Over to you, President.
Thank you very much, members of the media and the leadership of the EFF and fellow South Africans. We thought we must call this press conference before the national shutdown to give members of the media an opportunity to ask questions about issues that may need more clarity, because so many things have been said about the national shutdown. We welcome the support that we have received from all different types of formations, the ATM, SAFTU, and many other organizations, non-governmental organizations, South Africans who are concerned about the state of affairs in the country. And we once more want to reassure South Africans that this is a national shutdown that is calling on the resignation of the President and the demand of the end to load shedding and bring to light the issues that affect young people, in particular issues of unemployment, issues of access to higher education, issues of water and electricity in our communities, the potholes that exist everywhere else in our communities, the high levels of crime and GBV, and the high levels of corruption. Also to hold the President accountable, because the President has violated his oath of office. And therefore, we cannot fold our arms when the country is on a brink of collapse. The future generation is going to ask us as to what have you done when the country was faced with so many challenges. And the only thing we can do is to raise our voices. We've got voices that are protected by the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa, and we'll use those voices to raise our concerns. Ground forces of the EFF have been everywhere on the ground, mobilizing our people, conscientizing them and making them aware as to what is the importance of this national shutdown. And key, amongst other things, was to drop letters in offices, in the malls, in the banks, in the airports, to make aware everybody else about this type of action that is going to take place. I personally went to meet with the chairperson of the PSL to make him aware so that he doesn't get surprised that they have certain plans as the PSL and we have other things, and when they respond, it looks like they are clashing with what the EFF is planning. So all what we are doing is not to say there shouldn't be a PSL game. It's to say there will be this type of an activity in the country, and if there is any other planning that you have, please take this into consideration. We're doing the same tonight with the Santaco. Our regions have met with the regional structures, local structures of Santaco. What do we want from Santaco? We want nothing. It's an important stakeholder that must be made aware that the streets are going to be occupied. They use those streets every day. And therefore, it's only courtesy that you go to them and say, we know you use this facility on a daily basis, but please be aware that this facility will be occupied by a protest on the 20th of March. We did the same thing with the malls and the shops and business, precisely because we want to avoid looting. We don't want looting on the 20th of March. But you know that if shops are opened, people take advantage of those shops and engage in illegal activities. We're not saying in any of our letters, close the shop. We're making them aware that there will be a protest on such a day, for them to make preparations to take into consideration that there will be such a thing on that day. So, anyone who says we have threatened violence is not telling the truth, because we have not threatened violence. All we did was to be nice to all the stakeholders, because that is in the nature and character of the EFF. So if, having been made aware, you do what is in your best interest, it is your call. Don't come back to the EFF and say it must take a responsibility. Now, we have been made aware that the DA has hired agent provocateurs who are going to be planted amongst the protesters of the EFF so that they can undermine the peaceful protest of the EFF, its integrity and its demands, so that everything else is about what the agent provocateurs would have done to divert attention from the demand of Ramaphosa's resignation. That's number one. Number two, that the DA has taken a decision to defend Ramaphosa and is masquerading as protecting business and the economy of South Africa, which is not true. Because the DA in its papers, and you are a journalist, you read, you should have read those papers by now. They are not demanding the interdict. They are not interdicting the protest. They are saying they are interdicting violence and intimidation, which has never happened. How do you interdict non-existing thing? That DA of yours has actually approved the EFF's protest in Western Cape and in the Cape Metro in particular. How do you approve something today and tomorrow want to appear on TV as if you are not going to allow this type of a protest to happen? They've approved it. So, everything else John was doing yesterday was just a PR to demonstrate to his funders that he's doing something in defense of Ramaphosa. But in reality, he knows that he can't stop the EFF. Not the DA, not anyone can stop the EFF. Now, the DA says to black South Africans, any protest that doesn't involve white people is going to be violent because black people need puppeting. Someone must come there and puppet us and say, no, don't do this, don't do that. The only difference between what we are doing today, on the 20th of March, and what we did against President Zuma, the only difference is that it doesn't involve the white man. And the white man is a self-appointed supervisor of a black skin. Now that the white man is not involved, now that the white man is not approving, there's going to be violence. And that's what John did. That's why there were 3 white people in that press conference to come and tell us, white people do not approve of this. Because they know clever blacks, anything that is not white approved, they won't be associated with it. They were not talking to me and you. They were talking to the colonial clerks. I saw one of them on Twitter saying, I'm going to work, what about you? Some Bongani, what? Of a journalist say, I'm going to work on Monday, what about you? Good, you have a work. What about so many unemployed people who don't have work? You're showing them a middle finger with such arrogance. You are going to work. Where must these unemployed people go? Since you are able to brag about your job on social media. Not even a little sympathy about these unemployed young people of South Africa and the poverty-stricken South Africans who live in terrible economic conditions. We have to stand up. And don't tell us that the shutdown will make the economy worse than what it is. We had that from Mangosuthu Buthelezi when we called for sanctions. He went around saying there must not be sanctions against apartheid. We called for sanctions against apartheid because we knew that sanctions will force the white supremacists to come and negotiate this freedom we have today. So that argument will not arise because we have been there before. Sellouts always masquerade as if they are concerned, like Mangosuthu did in the late 80s when we were calling for sanctions against apartheid. He went around the world saying apartheid must not be sanctions. We wouldn't be where we are today if there were no sanctions against apartheid. So we want a good future. On the 20th of March, we have to shut down this country to show the whole world that we are concerned about the state of affairs. We can't fold our arms. But where are the doomsayers? All of those clever blacks, fools masquerading as clever people, who said, how can he announce a shutdown 2 months before shutdown? It will never happen. It's here now. They are shaking. They thought we were bluffing when we announced this. Every time we speak, there is something, some narrative driven to want to undermine what we are saying. We announced this on the 19th of January, SG. And they say, how can a person announce? Why not tomorrow? Why not? They thought 20th of March will never come. You know why? It's myopic. People with a chicken view, they only see here. We've got the giraffe view. We can see the future. That's why we were never shaken, even when they said, why 2 months? We knew this day will come. Now all of them are running like headless chickens, as if they never knew this day will come. This day has come. Protest has got no formula. It's a protest. We have no permit. If you're going to ask for permit, we don't have permit. We're going to protest. We're not going to march. And to protest, we require no permit from anyone. It is our constitutional right. Enough is enough. That's why we took this decision to put our bodies on the streets. If they want to do anything, let them do it on the 20th of March. We're not scared of them. We will defend the defenseless masses of our people with our bodies. And our bodies will be on the streets, all of us. Every branch of the EFF, every public representative of the EFF, every progressive force will put his or her body on the streets on the 20th of March. Like he did with Marikana, let him do it. Like the apartheid government did with Sharpeville, let history repeat itself. We are not scared. We are ready for anything for the 20th of March. I thank you.
Thank you very much, President. We'll take the first round of hands of questions from members of the media. I'll start on this side. You'll be number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5. We'll have a second round after this first 5 hands. Number 1.
Okay. Afternoon, everybody. It's Natasha Piri here from SABC News. CIC, I just want some clarity. The last time you spoke about the march, the last press briefing, you had said that the whole country will be at a standstill. You just mentioned right now that you're going to be engaging with Santako later on today. So clearly, transport will be affected. I just want clarity in terms of essential workers. Maybe Metoko Odulako Eleg says she needs to go to a clinic. Will she be able to actually go to a clinic to provide essential services? Furthermore, you've mentioned some political parties and formations that will be joining the march, ATM, SAFTU, UDM. Who else will be joining? And also in terms of logistics, where is the starting point? Please correct me if I'm wrong. The last time you said you're going to the union buildings. Just please clarify those issues. Thank you.
Number 2.
Abongile Dumago, SABC News, good afternoon. Hlekazi, I just want to find out, with the statement you've just made regarding what the DA apparently plans to do in trying to, disrupt the national shutdown tomorrow, what are you planning to do then to ensure that whatever men or women that they bring amongst your members to try and sort of divert all their attention, what is it that you're going to do then to make sure that that doesn't happen? Because it would seem it would be a threat, if you like, to your march next week. Thank you.
Number 3.
Mongezi Gogo from Kai News. My question touches on what Natasha asked It has to do with the worker. So as a party that represents the worker, the no work, no policy sort of policy, well, when it's applied to the workers on Monday, what happens then? What do you say as a party to the worker that won't be earning solely based off of the shutdown? What's your response to that?
Number 4.
Good morning, good day, everyone. My name is Salon from Salon Media. I just have 2 quick questions to Mr. Malema. The first one is what provisions will be made to make sure that no outside forces infiltrate the shutdown, and we ultimately have a repeat of what happened in the July lootings, which is the fear of many business people and the communities out there. And secondly, what would the EFF or Mr. Malema himself consider as a success after the shutdown?
Number 5.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Mawande from the Sunday World. I've got 2 questions. Mr. Malema, we now know that Fidelity, through its head of investigation, which is the infamous and controversial Mr. Johan Boysen of the Cato Manor hit squad, they've written to the National Commissioner of Police, General Fani Masemola, asking to be a backup to the police on the day of the shutdown. What is your response to that, especially given the character that I'm talking about, Mr. Johan Boysen, and the fact that we know on the backdrop of what happened in 2021 July unrest in the response of private security, especially in Phoenix, where a lot of people were killed not armed. What do you have to say about companies such as Fidelity wanting to join in such a thing? And what are you going to do to defend the protesters that would have joined the EFF national shutdown against private security that may be trigger-happy and cause a bloodbath? And then secondly, on the companies of the establishment that has made it clear that they are not in support of this national shutdown, and therefore it is safe to conclude that there is going to be consequences against some staff members that would have joined, although we know that many people ordinarily wouldn't be working on Monday because it's a public holiday on Tuesday, but those that are working and will be subjected to disciplinary action or be fired after joining the national shutdown. What is it that the EFF has under its sleeves to defend the workers who would have joined this national shutdown? Thank you very much.
President.
All the essential services will be protected, and will make sure that the workers who provide the essential services have access to their workplace without any difficulty. That includes the police and the nurses, the health workers in particular. So our structures will be cooperative and will make sure that the clinics and hospitals are functional in line with what NEHAU is doing. We will not tamper with the NEHAU strike. We are not going to be used to fight a union that is fighting for the rights of the workers. So that's why I just explained that our meeting with Santaco is courteous meeting to say there will be protesters on the roads, and the taxis and all of that should take that into consideration as they prepare for that day to operate. So there shouldn't be unnecessary conflict and confrontations between ourselves and the taxis, because we all belong to the same class, and therefore to have the working class fighting each other is to please capital, and it is not in the interest of all of us. We know that taxis are apolitical and do not get involved in politics, but it's important that we engage them. There is no starting point and finishing point. If I happen to be at the Union building, I will not have started anywhere. So fighters, wherever they are just going to gather and then protest. And it's as simple as that. It doesn't have transport, it doesn't have anything. The same way they protest in their communities, they are going to protest like that on that day. It's a protest, it's not a march. So wherever you are, patriotic South Africans and fellow fighters, identify strategic spots where you can go and occupy and make your voice heard. It's as simple as that. So if Union Building is such a center where we could be heard, let's go. We'll meet there. The branch of the EFF in that area must make sure there is an activity that demonstrates that we can be heard. If we can be heard at the Johannesburg Stock Exchange, why not? Go and occupy the Johannesburg Stock Exchange and protest there and show white capital that as you grow your shares and your monies, a lot of people are being left behind. If they can protest in a parliament or whatever legislature, whatever council, anywhere where the people will be at, if you can protest at a border gate, SG, at the harbor, at the border gate, at Richards Bay, let's go. Anywhere. It's a protest. It does not have a formula. Well, you know, guys, there have been people here, small boys who said Malema will be stopped, this shutdown will not happen, will physically stop Malema, will be with the president to stop Malema, and threatening Malema's democratic right. There's never been anyone who said Malema is being threatened with violence. And I'm not worried about you not saying that. Only when Malema starts threatening violence, all of you will be having voices. Some boys film themselves all the time here threatening me. And I can tell you with ease, let any boy come and try to stop me. He will meet his maker. When he leaves in the morning, he must kiss his mother goodbye. I've got no time for boys. Let him try and stop me on the 20th of March. He will meet his maker. No boy or a girl can stop me and can take away my right. They say that every day on social media, they film themselves. No one says Malema's right is being threatened. That Malema is being threatened. If my right cannot be defended by the media, by the law enforcement, I've got a legal obligation to defend myself, and I will do it. The same happens to agent provocateurs and outside forces. The fighters have got a responsibility to isolate agent provocateurs and outside forces who want to hijack the march and give it a bad name. And anyone who threatened the right of the fighters and fellow South Africans, defend yourself. That includes Fidelity. By the way, we're not scared of poison. Well, it's nobody, it's just another human being. He's got no authority over violence. That he conducted himself the way he did in KZN, it doesn't give him a right. This is not KZN. This is South Africa. He must know that. So we're not scared of Fidelity, neither are we scared of any private security. Fighters, defend yourself. Anyone who's trigger happy, show them ×2 what you can do. We're not going to give the other side. Anyone who can, we're coming in peace. We're not fighting anyone. But don't try us. We're not scared of Fidelity. We're not scared. We know who owns and participate in Fidelity. We know the owners of Fidelity. And we know why Fidelity is behaving the way it does. Because we know who are the interested parties. Whose daughter is leading Fidelity? If you want to know why is Fidelity interested in the manner it is. Ask the question, whose daughter is involved in Fidelity? Then you will understand why is Fidelity interested, the way it is interested in the shutdown. But we are not scared of them. Fighters, progressive South Africans, conduct yourself peacefully. But anyone who comes with nonsense, do not tolerate nonsense from anyone. It doesn't matter who they are. We are not scared of them, and we are not scared of Fidelity. We have never been scared of Fidelity. How do you apply no work, no pay? When I decided I'm coming to work and the roads are closed by protesters, I can't have access to work. It's not me who decided not to come to work. I was readily available. It happens every day in South Africa where we wake up, the roads are closed and we can't go to work. What happens in that context? That's what is going to happen. No one can say to a worker, no, you didn't come to work, you went to the protest, therefore you are not going to be paid. No. No. I was readily available. There was no bus. I was readily available. There was no taxi. Because in other areas, the EFF has agreed with taxis not to operate. They had a mutual agreement that no, that day we will not operate. We'll close down and not operate. So any worker who's treated unfairly like that, the EFF labor desk will be ready at all levels, in all corners of South Africa, to represent those workers and fight for them. The success of a shutdown is not a 21st birthday party. It's a beginning of the revolution. What happens? The question should be, what happens if the shutdown starts on the 20th and never stops? Because there's a possibility that it might not stop. What if that is the beginning of the revolution? So, we have a date with the 20th of March, and we'll see it on that day. Our point is being very clear. We are not here for the first time. We've been here before. When we removed Zuma, these are some of the steps we took. It was not on the same day when we said Zuma must fall that Zuma fell on that day. It took a number of activities for us to arrive where we arrived when we said Zuma must fall. So this is the beginning of the revolution. We said to you, Ramaphosa will never have peace as long as he violated his oath of office. He will never be a friend of the EFF. That's where we are. Protesters, protect yourself. Even Phoenix, and clear instruction has been given to Phoenix protesters. We know what those people are capable of. They must not outnumber you. They must not outsmart you. If they come with the same attitude, give them the same attitude twice. We're ready for Phoenix. We're ready for them. So we are not going here like children. We are going into it ready for anything. If action is called upon, that order will be given and we will respond. We don't expect companies to support us. They are reactionaries. They are the beneficiaries of this collapse. They are the ones who make more money out of this non-existing state. And therefore, we don't expect them not to support us. But many small businesses in South Africa have said, we are going to close and we are going to support the protest. A lot of small business. I cannot expect Rupert to support me. I can't expect the Oppenheimers to support me and things like that. But I can assure you, the shops have been calling in their numbers saying, we support this, we are going to release the workers. One of the business people was saying to me, SG, that I'm going to release these people to go to a protest. And I'm going to tell them, If you don't go to protest, you must come to work and sit outside the shop. Because I'm going to demand a mechanism for them to prove they went to protest, because we support protest. If they are not going to protest, I will be closing, but they must come here and report that they reported for work. They have two options: to report at the work or to report at the protest, because we support this protest. We think we need this to give this government an awakening call to know that South Africans are concerned. We may not do anything, but let's raise our voices. We cannot be so scared to a point where we're even scared to raise our voices and behave like it's business as usual. That's all the shutdown is about. We may not have money to patch the potholes. We may not have money to build or give people Jojo tanks and all of that. But we've got the voices to say to the unemployed, to say to the poverty-stricken, to say to all victims of GBV and victims of crime that we are with you and we know the pain you are going through. That's why we brought our bodies to the streets to demonstrate to the whole world that we will never keep silence when majority of our people are suffering. This is what it's about. And why should peace-loving South Africans who love to see progress in others not support this type of protest? Thank you.
We'll take the second round, second and final round. We'll start on this side. Number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. This is the last round. Number 5, number 6. Let's go. Introduce yourself in the media house. Number 1.
Thanks very much, Snao. It's Zianda Ngobo from Newsroom Africa. I just wanted clarity. Will the EFF be responding to the DA's papers? And I'm just trying to get a sense of the EFFs, what they have to say about the merits of the court papers, especially when it comes to this debate about the right to protest and what they're trying to circumvent. And I mean, we could have a debate about it, but in terms of numbers, but are you able to quantify how many people you're expecting to join in on this protest action? I mean, one could say maybe this is you launching your political campaign for 2024. And so, as well, another question, I mean, the EFF is a political party. You sit in parliament, you've got various mechanisms, the motion of no confidence, etc. So one could argue that you've got many other means to actually take down Ramaphosa, seeing that that's your main goal. So if Ramaphosa doesn't resign after your march, where to from there? You've raised your voices, and then what?
Number 2.
Good afternoon. My name is Shannon Merricks from Kasi Broadcasting Corporation. My first concern is DSTV, Naspers, in the past 3 months lost 8 billion. So the first people that should support the shutdown, because one of the items is load shedding. Naspers lost money. DSTV channels, Newsroom Africa, they all lost money. Because when there's load shedding, that dish goes off. So the first people that must support the national shutdown due to load shedding is media houses. The media in this room, their phones are going to shut off now in the next hour, battery low. Their cell phones going out, no signal. So as a media house, we are supporting the load shedding, the protest, because load shedding affects all of us. The second part on the small business in townships. With the load shedding, there's something happening. Some of us, we stay in the suburbs and we have family in the townships and we stay in the townships. Now the middle class, you don't get load shedding the same way as Magogo gets. Magogo gets load shedding for 2 hours on the register, on the app, but it's down for 6-8 hours. Eldos, Kliptown, they get load shedding 8 hours that's supposed to be 2 hours. So if you think people in townships are not going to join this protest, you're in for a big surprise. The issue on the numbers, I can predict, not EFF, I can predict there'll be 3 million people joining from townships this protest. My question to the CIC is, there's a big concern. You know, when you do a protest or a court interdict or you go to court, you use history. Now, the DA and others are going to court to say they want EFF not to do violence, not to do all those things. But where I'm sitting, when I look at the history, I can't find any incident where EFF were violent, where they damaged property, and July unrest was an unled protest. Even today, nobody has been charged as the leader of that protest. So what my concern is, if somebody say there's going to be violence on the 20th, there's no legal local standing to say it has happened in the past. So my concern is people are preempting and they're trying to instigate communities. Communities want to protest and they want to protest peacefully. Thank you.
Number 3.
Good afternoon. My name is Tandi Maigo. I'm from the Business Day. Now, the CIC mentioned that there is a plausible risk that the protest may spill over into the next day, so the 25th and so on and so forth. But with that spillover, there's also a real possibility that the longer the shutdown persists, the greater possibility of economic damage, inevitably leading to higher consumer prices and a reduction of standard of living for all. What then would be the solution? Do you support a spillover of the protest? And then the CIC also mentioned that no critical infrastructure is off limits for the protest, right? So including Richards Bay Port, the Durban Bay Port, not the Durban Bay Port, the Durban Port, Union Buildings, Eskom, AXA, all those buildings owned by AXA. With the party, should there be any damages to those properties or any loss of lives because of the protest? Would the EFF be taking responsibility, or is it all hands off? The party won't take any responsibility. And then can you just mention, I'm not sure if you mentioned it initially, can you just mention the organizations that have pledged their support for the actual party? Thank you.
Number 4.
Kosinathi Shazi from Power FM News. My question is just around consequence management. We do understand the EFF just turned 10. You guys have over 1 million members. However, the shutdown is calling for a wider range of people, basically the whole of South Africa, unemployed people. We also have a number of undocumented foreign nationals. So basically, Murphy's Law, whatever can go wrong will go wrong. Are you guys ready to face those consequences? Because as the media, anything negative that happens will be associated with EFF. So my question is, are you guys ready to face the consequences if anything goes wrong?
Number 5. Six. There was number 5. It's you. Sure.
Siyabonga Sithola from the Star. The Action SA has also joined in on the berating of the shutdown, which was pointed out by the DA yesterday. What would be the response to that? Because they are citing the very same reasons as the DA in terms of the violence that's going to be there, the lack of coordination that's going to be there, and other factors.
Number 6.
Thank you very much. Mr. Malema, as a follow-up to my initial question on Fidelity, do you believe that Fidelity has any right or is entitled to demanding meetings with the National Commissioner in wanting to join in a shutdown of this sort? And then secondly, still on Fidelity, they say, Mr. Boysen, that is in this report to Mr. Masemola, that ANC members may take issue with the fact that the EFF wants to remove President Cyril Ramaphosa from office. Therefore, conflict and violence may erupt between members of the EFF and the ANC. Do you agree with that analysis by the Fidelity Security Services Group? Finally, the Road Freight Association, in a letter here that seems to be an agreement that they have with General Masemola as well, they seem to suggest that in terms of fuel trucks, they have agreed on police escort. What do you do to issues like that, where the warning was issued but they still persist, and if such trucks, such as fuel trucks, are escorted by the police and they come across the protesters of the EFF, what do you do in those circumstances? Thank you very much.
Thank you, President.
Oh, I didn't hear that it was the last round, so I was shocked. Why is there number 6? Court papers, right of protest. Everyone has got the right to protest, and everyone has got the right to go to work. And I say to you, there's going to be fire there with all your right. What do? You just act stupid and go into a fire because you've got the right to go. I'm saying to you, there's going to be fire there. I'm just being courteous to you. I'm not saying don't go to work. I'm saying to you, there's going to be fire there. Don't go. So, ordinarily, this type of protest attracts numbers, which makes it impossible for traffic flow, easy flow of traffic, and easy flow of business on the day. And therefore, it is not reasonable for you to even want to go against such. I've led this protest from when I was young in Kosas here in Johannesburg. We've always done what we're doing now to inform business, and business will close and allow the protesters to do what they are doing. And those who insist on opening, when they see numbers, you must see them acting like children, running to go and close the doors. And it becomes anxiety and panic for them, which they could have avoided by just looking at numbers. So the numbers will not allow for easy flow. It's not going to be possible. Even if the court says, yeah, I guarantee this, it doesn't even require the EFF to guarantee that right of you to open your shop, to go to work or do anything. It's there. We will not take it away. And it's your call if you want to proceed as such. But we have given you that direction. Call it what you want to call it, election campaign and anything of that sort. Are you saying because there's going to be election at some point, the EFF must not do anything because it will be called election campaign? That is being naive. Protest can come at any time, even on the eve of the elections or even immediately after the elections. So we're not going to be told this is an election campaign. Let me whisper to you, election campaign of the EFF is going to be launched on the 29th of July at FNB Stadium. We don't masquerade. Ar kukuni, ar baloi. No, ar kukuni. Now we come straight. Ours will be launched on the 29th of July at FNB Stadium. So why should we now use something as an election campaign launch when we've got an opportunity to launch it? So it's not an election campaign, but call it what you want to call it. Other means, you are in parliament. Why do you protest? Because you've got other means. I mean, the question is answering itself and contradicting itself in the process. Because other means include this one. It doesn't take away this one. That's why other means. The other means is parliament, which we are using. You can't say, why do you use only? That's why you can't put only in your question. Why do you use only this method? No, we're not using this method only. We were kicked in parliament raising the same matter. So there is no one single method of raising your dissatisfaction. We're using parliament, which we use very effectively, which we did during the State of the Nation address. And we did when it came to answer questions by staying away from the questions as a way of protest. And now we're going to the streets as well. So, when we use that method, SG in parliament, using parliament to raise why are you doing that? Because there are other methods you can use to raise your concerns. you will never satisfy them. If you follow that, you are going to be an amoeba. You will be shapeless. People will not know where the head is, where the tail is. Because every time you try, no, go this way. Every time you try, no, go this way. You will never know where you are going. So we are refusing that. Because we use all methods, including, by the way, the courts. We are in the courts to demand that the panel report, which said the president has got some questions to answer, must be tabled in Parliament, because the non-voting, the non-secret ballot usage in Parliament has led to where we are. If the court said, yes, she was wrong not to use a secret ballot, then the matter is coming back to Parliament. We are also using a method of an ad hoc committee to hold the president accountable. So we're using all types of methods. Correct. I mean, the most victims of this load shedding is the media. As we are sitting here now, the room can become dark, and then the news can't be distributed the way you had planned to distribute them because of load shedding. So everybody is affected by this, and something must give to show that indeed we are in a serious situation that requires a different type of approach. So we welcome the media's support of the shutdown. We hope to see you putting your bodies on the streets supporting this shutdown. 2 hours, 6 hours is correct, it's true. We in the suburbs were different, because when they say 2 hours, it's not even 2 hours. It's 1 hour, 40 minutes, 1 hour, 50 minutes. It comes before the actual 2 hours. But the villagers, if it goes, they are happy to have it back the same day. It goes forever. And not only load shedding, by the way, that thing, what do you call it, substation SG, that one that burns all the time. If a substation burns in December, you must know it's done. If you get it back in less than 6 months, you are lucky. That is the life of our people. And when you say, why is he protesting? We have electricity. Our people don't have electricity. You are happy to have electricity. But this small business we are talking about, they've closed. They're actually no longer there. A KFC, let's take KFC, for instance. When it is load shedding, I don't eat KFC, it smells badly. So I don't think I eat KFC because I talk about KFC. KFC has got a generator outside. When it is load shedding, they don't switch on the generator. They close the doors. Because initially they bought generators thinking, we're going to defeat this through generators. So one day I asked them, why do you close when there is a generator outside? They say all the profits goes into the generator. So it's not worth it. It has eaten into business. So small business, by the way, majority of small business in South Africa is Indians. I expect a lot of Indians on the streets. Because they are the ones who hit hard. They are the ones who run small businesses. Small shop here, small fish and chips here. Indian community, it might not be that poor and working class in the sense we want to define the African working class, because they are involved somehow in small businesses. If there are people who feel the effect of load shedding, it's Indian communities, especially those who are in the small businesses. They are the ones who should be hitting the streets on the 20th of March and saying, this is going to lead to closing of our businesses. So we expect them there. We expect black and white, coloreds and Indians. This is a national shutdown. It doesn't say EFF shutdown. It says national shutdown. The SG was showing me here in Hardin. The taxi industry, filling stations, everyone has agreed to close and said we're hit hard by this thing. We're joining the EFF's protest on that day. So, you are right. EFF has protested, has got no history of violence. So, why is violence starting today? And why would you know there's going to be violence if you are not the one who's planning the violence? The DA knows there's going to be violence because it is going to deploy agent provocateurs like they did during apartheid. It will not be for the first time. Apartheid deployed agent provocateurs in a peaceful protest. We are marching. We are being commanded by leadership. There is no problem. Police stop us. Leadership goes to talk to the police to open the roads and all of that. Boom! A stone just comes from the masses, hitting a van of the police. Because that is the arrangement between the police and the agent provocateurs. You throw a stone. Once we see a stone, we are hitting. That's what the DA is going to do. But we are very vigilant and we are ready for their people on that day. So we have no history of causing violence during our protests. Only those who are planning violence will know that there's going to be violence on that day. Economic damage, my sister, you are directing your question to a wrong people. Economic damage is led by Ramaphosa. Ramaphosa's government is leading to economic damage. With such high unemployment, with the economy collapsing, with businesses closing, with electricity not being provided, you want to turn around and blame the EFF for that? No, man. No. It's going to become worse if we don't stop Ramaphosa now. So, if it goes beyond the 20th of March, it's no longer EFF-led. Now the society has taken over. And that will be a confirmation of what we warned you about, that there will be an unled revolution in South Africa. No one can stop it. No army can stop it. No police can stop it. Who can stop this? Ramaphosa can stop it by stepping down. And that's how Ramaphosa can stop the economic damage, by the way. If Ramaphosa stepped down, we want the leadership that will engage in a program that will recover our economy as a country. We have said to you, we are not going to damage any property. Therefore, we are not going to take responsibility for any damaged property. Police have a responsibility to arrest criminals. So, anyone who damages anyone's property will face law enforcement. Ours is a peaceful protest. You will only come back to us if we had said, be violent. The ban, do this. We've never said that. So peaceful protest is allowed in the Constitution, and those who engage in illegal activities will face the might of the law. The police will be there to deal with it. SG is going to tell me the list now of people who are supporting us. The consequence management, it's a police. You engage in wrongdoing, police will arrest you. If you are an EFF member and you can be identified, the EFF will take internal steps to discipline such people because ours is a peaceful protest. I don't know why we really are being asked about Herman Mashaba. Because Herman Mashaba is a clown of note. Like, it's just a matter of time, man. Those are irritations that come with democracy. Bohemian. I mean, his political party's ideology is what? So I have no time for Herman. Herman is like these other loud noises that are... What will Herman do, for instance? Because when Herman speaks, you must ask him. But they're saying the shutdown is going on. What are you going to do when? What will he do, Herman? There's nothing he can do. Nothing. Unobulela nje. Unoncha moya ofisha. Unandwa ebulela. Abulele selo. So Herman Agazarabuje selo. He will never tell us anything. He won't do anything. Well, I've got intelligence report that Masemola is planning violence anyway against the EFF members. And against the advice of the minister, by the way, that the minister had warned Masemola not to act with a heavy-handedness on the protesters. Masemola is planning violence. And we are watching him closely, and we are watching even his instructions, because if he gives illegal instruction like he did on Palapala, then we are going to get him arrested. We're going to get him arrested. Remember, Masemola is implicated in Palapala. So when you march about Palapala, you are indirectly fighting Masemola. He's the one who has been giving illegal instructions to the police to engage in illegal activities in protection of this criminal president, to go and look for illegal money. Police are involved in what we are protesting about. Police themselves. They took our chopper, went to Namibia without a police case. Sent police to go to Namibia without a police case. Sent police to interrogate the domestic worker, to torture a domestic worker, engage in GBV. So police cannot be happy with the protest of the EFF. Police, I mean the high echelons of the, not ordinary police. The high management of the police is not happy that the president is being called to resign. Key amongst the demands for the resignation of the president is Palapala, which implicates Masemola. So Masemola is planning heavy-handedness, and is not going to succeed. The people he's working with, the people he's giving illegal instruction, he doesn't know that they report here at Winnie Mandela House directly. I don't understand how these fools are still operating here in South Africa, because out of 10, when you're talking to 10 people, 3 of them to 4 are EFF supporters. When you're talking to 10 people. So Masemola thinks those are ANC mascots. They were ANC members. Some of them went there as MK and all of that. They too are not happy with what's happening. They are card-carrying members, and they report here about Masemola's activity. So what you are talking about, I've got a blow-by-blow of what he's planning. He gives an illegal instruction. He's going straight to jail. IPID is waiting for him. Because we are not going to allow Masemola to act outside the Constitution, because he wants to protect his personal interests and the interests of the president. That is an abuse of office, an abuse of power. So Boysens must know that there is no Masemola who's going to help him. There's no Masemola who's going to help him. So fuel tanks, I don't know where the fuel tanks will be going, because garages are closed. Why should fuel tanks be escorted? They are wasting police petrol. To where? Transnet issued an instruction. Transnet has written a letter to all trucks owners. No trucks at the bay, at any of their ports, no nothing. They are shutting down. The trucks will not be there. So when you take petrol to where? Unyaka uswagi. Unyaka ufisha petrol. Because you are okay. Then it means you are going to supply people petrol. Hey, you are going to supply the protest. Your intention is to supply protesters with a petrol. only way not to make it easy for people to access petrol on that day is to make sure no petrol tankers are on the road and no filling stations are open. That's all. What are you doing on the streets when you are told there's going to be a huge protest and then you say, to that protest, I shall send a fuel tanker? I get who are led by fools. You think I'm insulting them. What is this? You don't even say, no, Masemula agreed with these people that the trucks that transport bread will be escorted by police. That is an oil cartel. That is the oligarchy. Those are the people who control our country. They went to tell government, we don't care about that. You give us police. It must be business as usual. They would have said that to the ANC during negotiations in the 90s. They will never say that to the EFF. It is not business as usual on the 20th of March. We are not going to succumb to the oligarchy. We are not going to succumb to the cartel. We are not going to succumb to white monopoly capital. We are going to shut this country on the 20th of April. There is no fuel tanker that will be on the road if they know what is safe for them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commander-in-Chief. That concludes the press conference of the EFF. Let's meet on the picket lines on the 20th. Thank you very much.
They will tell you this guy. They will tell you the